Hello everyone. So, it's been quite a long time since there's been an update on this channel. There was a recent interview discussion that I had on the podcast. There's a link in the description which you can check out. I have decided that one of the reasons that the podcast has not been updated is because the patterns of how my life is organized have shifted. I'm here in Italy, as many of you know, and you may be hearing some ambient Italy as this goes on. I'm trying to not be fussy about recording everything because that's one of the reasons that has delayed me from putting stuff out. So, plan going forward will be to just kind of put stuff out there. One of the things that I have been working on is this. Working at the Museo Muta, the Museum of Inlay in Sorrento, and we have courses coming up, exhibitions coming up. So I may touch upon that from time to time. And of course there's going to be, as you can see, some really interesting, beautiful design work being done by the architect and designer Alessandro Fiorentino, as well as some of the good student stuff that's been done. So you can look for some of that here. The thought which spurred me on to this, there were several things. There are lots of things that I want to put out there. And I'm shifting. You can tell from my rambling, I am shifting from the carefully prepared written statements to more stream of consciousness. So we'll see how that goes. I may prepare written things here as I have in the past. I had been listening to Sam Harris, which I do from time to time. That's a good thing to do, especially if you disagree with him, which is what Jordan Peterson does a lot on only certain things. So apparently and I haven't even found which of their arguments is the most recent. In one of the more recent arguments, Jordan Peterson was talking about this on his podcast and saying that he and Sam Harris were having an argument about value. So they were getting down to their epistemological differences. And I thought that, and of course they say they agree on many things, and they do. Underneath the argument was a common bias and a common blind spot, which, if they see this, or even if some of their fans see it, if anyone wants to comment on this, that's why this is YouTube. So please, have the discussions, have the arguments there. As long as we, let's keep an eye on Godwin's law. So we have this idea that they're talking about how values are constructed. What are our values grounded on? And of course that's important. Why are the things that are important to you important? Why are they important? And then when you have conflicts in values, well, that's a good way of describing all the problems that we have in the world, a good way of understanding them. So the summary that was provided, rather good summary, that Peterson related in his recent Portland podcast. It's the Portland one, which, by the way, it was quite good. So Peterson says that he believes, let's start with Sam. Sam Harris is saying that values are grounded in facts, that he wants to derive values from facts. I consider this to be a tenet of faith. I think it was Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro was talking about how Sam Harris is the most religious atheist he's ever met. I hope he runs into Richard Dawkins someday. But, so yes, Sam Harris has several tenets of faith. This is one of them, that values are grounded in facts. I think that that's a very limiting point of view. Of course, facts inform values. If you have values which are contrary to facts, you're going to just have frustration for yourself at best, and you're going to be incredibly potentially destructive in the world and for other people. So yes, that's limiting, and that's what Jordan Peterson was saying. What I thought was interesting is that Jordan Peterson is trying to say here's where I think his criticism is apt, but his target is missing the point. He somehow thinks that instead of grounding values in facts, instead of deriving values from facts, you derive values from narrative. And then you bring up this great shibboleth of meaning, that somehow it's, well, meaning is this great thing. Well, meaning is a symptom. Meaning is a symptom of understanding and communication. Meaning is a good thing. If you pursue meaning as a goal, that pretty much makes about as much sense as pursuing happiness as a goal. Meaning and happiness are epiphenomena of other processes. If there's a very good poem, it means something to you. If you have a relationship with someone that you care about very much, it has meaning to you. If I go out in the world and I think I want to pursue meaning, I want to discover meaning, I want to have a relationship that's meaningful, that's all up in the air. Because, of course, the obvious question is, meaning what? What does the relationship mean to you? What does the poem mean to you? So, I think that all of this is grounded in feeling. Probably other things, but feeling absolutely needs to be addressed. And this is the common blind spot between Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson. So, Jordan Peterson is talking about narrative. And okay, this, yes, with his constant ideological war with the post-structuralists and the postmodernists, which, by the way, I have a lot of sympathy with. I understand how upset he is about all of those people and how frustrating it is. Yes, I have been through that ringer. I have been through that academic nonsense. So, but narrative in of itself, I mean, he's basically playing in the court of the postmodernists when he says this. Because if your values come from narrative, then all of the criticisms of Derrida, all of the silliness of Barthes, where you're talking about the death of the author, where you're talking about a multiplicity of interpretations, and Derrida's main point is to recapitulate the liar paradox in saying, I won't get into that now, unless you guys really want me to, and twist my arm. Anyways, but the thing... You see that? I say Derrida and I lose my train of thought. That's not an accident. Anyways, but when Jordan Peterson is placing his argument for value like that, he is putting himself in the postmodernist court. And so that Derrida's argument of that there are multiple interpretations possible, yes, that's true. Derrida goes further by saying that no interpretation can be held to be higher than another. That has to do with the anti-hierarchical bias of the postmodernists, and I find that epistemology to be absolutely ridiculous. And there's absolutely no way that you can take a person who professes that seriously, and it's an open question as to whether Derrida ever intended anything he ever said to be taken seriously, because, you know, when a professor from the Sorbonne tells you that all professors are liars, is he telling the truth? So that's the recapitulation of the liar paradox that postmodernism implies. So, or when a linguist tells you that all meanings are indeterminate, what does he actually mean? It's another way of saying it. Anyways, it's ridiculous. But to get back to feeling, those of you who are still watching at the 10-minute point, amazing how time flies when you're extemporaneous. Thank you, by the way. So, what I mentioned before, feeling. So, something means something to you because you're understanding. So, it's understanding, it's communication and understanding. And so, understanding informs action, and we take actions because of a goal that we want to accomplish, usually related to how we feel. And this comes down to the everyday, to a very quotidian example, such as I'm feeling hungry, and so I see something or say something with meaning about something that I want to eat, and then the other person interprets the meaning of what I want to eat, and then we exchange something that we have shared meaning about and shared value in a very, very simple way. This is why economics is interesting philosophy, because it's actually a very useful metaphysical bridge, something that is all up in the air. Fiat currency, a literally abstract concept. It's something that all of us, even if you have weird feelings about money, you still value it, you still use it. I don't think anyone wants to actually live in a barter society. And if they do, they change their mind very quickly. We're kind of fortunate to live in this way, but that's another discussion. So feeling and value. Value is closely derived from feeling. I don't think, and I think it's a bit monomaniacal. It's part of the trouble with this discussion to think that you're having one basis to derive value from. I think that's inherently limited, and I want to qualify everything I'm saying with that. I don't think that value is one-dimensional. I think that would be a great mistake. However, I think that if you're looking at, okay, value is derived from narrative, value is derived from facts. These are both ridiculous, and I think if somehow both of them, this is very symptomatic of the times that we're living in, that both of them are not articulating throughout their whole long, fascinating discussions. It doesn't seem to come up, correct me if I'm wrong, it does not seem to come up that value is informed by feeling. In the area of life that I try to spend most of my time, effort, and work on, which is architecture and design, really it has a lot to do with feeling. And it's been ignored. And feeling can be expressed in a very concrete way and in an extremely subtle way. And that's why it's a very useful way to look at it, because it unifies this from all the way down on the Maslow's hierarchy of the survival, of what we call functional design, that down here you want something to not break. You want people to have healthy environments, where they're not having sick building syndrome. You want the traffic flow of pedestrians to be nice, to be safe. You want the building to be warm. You want it to be cool when it has to be. You want it to save energy. That's important. You kind of want to take care of those things. But then, okay, so, you go up a little bit and you think, okay, what are the shapes? Why is it the shape that it is? You can have enough space for someone to pragmatically include everything. This is my bedroom, so it's actually a really good size. I think that the Italian architects who built this thing in probably the 70s. As much as I can disagree with certain weird 1970s aspects, I think they did a pretty darn good job in many ways, and one of the ways is that the shape and the size of this bedroom, it fits pretty well. But then there are extra things. One extra thing is, does the wall need to be that color? No, it is. Is that the best color? Maybe. What would it be like if it were light blue? What would it be like if it were brown? What would it be like if it were, yellow? Those are very, very simple, basic. That's not even to mention, okay, there's no baseboards, there's no cornice molding, anything. Those are all extra decisions. And yeah, sure, those take more time and money, but the color of paint, no, it doesn't take any extra time or money, but all of it affects how you feel in the space. And all of that stuff matters. And some people convince themselves that it doesn't matter. However, returning to economics, look at how the real estate market treats the older buildings where a sense of tradition has really tuned in an unconscious, multi-generational way. It has tuned a sense of feeling so that it's very vibrant and very specific. Old cathedrals are a classic example of this. Old temples as well. Why? Because people care. Those are spaces, sacred spaces. Places held sacred, places made sacred, are always very much in tune with people's value systems. And so the feeling of that place, if it has been enduring, is typically a very highly developed expression of value and feeling coming together. And even if you're disconnected from that, as Adolf Loos says, even the atheist among the aristocracy lifts his hat as he passes a cathedral. Even if those values are outside your belief system, the feeling still impacts you. And the perfect proof of this is just wait over time. Look at ancient Hindu temples. Amazing. Look at something, and those traditions persist to this day, thankfully. And so some people participate fully in that, some people don't, but everyone responds to it. A better example, because it's been completely buried, sometimes literally, under the sands of time, is something like Egypt. Look at how that religious expression, which we even have a tough time grasping the depth of what it is, because this is an incredibly deep, sophisticated religious expression. We're continually learning more and more. But you look at that, and those buildings speak to people, no matter who they are, no matter where they're from. And if we're not paying attention to feeling, this is as important as when Jordan Peterson says to people, don't lie, even to yourself. Because if you're rewarding the system of disconnect, this is why he says don't lie, and he maybe says this better than I do, but I'll try to recapitulate it quickly. If you're lying to yourself and others, you're creating a reward system for rewarding things that are disharmonious with the way the world is. It's not in accord. Use a great Egyptian word, ma'at. To lie is against the sense of grand, just order in the world because it's going against what things are instead of affirming them. So if you go around, and then if you're successful, well, if you're successful in it, well, then you've really put a noose around your neck, because eventually, if you're really good at it, you'll start convincing yourself, and you won't be able to tell what's real and what isn't. So, people who lie a little bit cause problems for them and other people. People who are experts at lying put themselves in a kind of twilight zone where they can't even tell what's up and down anymore. So, telling the truth is important. An aspect of this is you need to bring awareness to how you feel, because there is a sense of truth in what you experience that is related to your feeling. If you're not aware of feeling, then you can't even tell what true is on a certain level. Again, a concrete example. You can ask some people, so what kind of music you like? And they'll say, oh, I don't know. And they're being honest. Some people. I think an even greater set of people. And this is why one of the reasons why art education is so important, because it exposes people in a contextualized way, in an informed way, to say, hey, here's all this stuff. What do you feel about it? What does it mean? What does it mean to you? And so expand that and say to people, well, what kind of building would you want to live in? What kind of house do you want? Make it really simple. What kind of house do you want for you and your family? Or even what kind of bedroom do you really want? Again, that's another great Petersonism, is clean your room and put your room in order. Implicit in that is a challenge to become a designer, or at least to become an intelligent client if you're having other people help you. This is the task of deciding what is good. Implicit in that is connecting feeling to value. And I think that should be discussed more. So you can ask people, what kind of house do you want to live in? What do you want your room to be like? They don't know. So people will tend to say, a very, very small group of people will have a very good focused idea of what they truly want, and then they go for it. And these tend to be people who either build it themselves or they'll hire people and just really be on top of them all the time. And that's a real challenging kind of person to work with, but in a very good way. Most people will say either I don't know, which is very honest, or maybe they don't even know that they don't know, which is difficult. And then they'll default to traditional expectations. They'll default to what the world of marketing has shown them. They'll default to habit. And if they haven't been exposed to alternative ways of the way things could be, or maybe they feel very cynical because they've just been exposed to so many things that are nasty, that it's like, no, it's not even going to, they've convinced themselves that it's not even going to, that something better is just not possible, so just accept, just make good with what you have. When things genuinely are bad, that's pragmatic. But often things are not as bad as people have convinced themselves. So, something that I've been thinking lately is that when people say, that's just the way the world is, that's just the way things are, that's the saying of powerlessness. That is the anthem of powerlessness, to say that that's just the way things are. And it's either said by people who are trying to make do with a very difficult situation, or it's being said by people who are taking advantage of the bad situation and trying to tell other people to not mess up this little scheme they have by saying, hey, oh, that's just the way it is. No, don't change it, don't improve it. Either way, it's unfortunate. And sometimes you have to say that if someone would be upset about it raining and then try to make it not rain. And if you don't have the attitude of that's the way it is to the weather, you're just going to be frustrated. You know, man yells at cloud. What? So, but then you could do any number of things with the weather of being pragmatic about it. But so that's what you do try to do. Think about what can you do. What fundamental to all of this is value grounded in feeling. What are you feeling? Why? What do you want to be different? And why? Facts are important in this, as Sam Harris says. Narrative and meaning are important, as Jordan Peterson says, although that's like what Peter Eisenman and Daniel Libeskind would go on about. If you focus on narrative and meaning itself, you just tie yourself in knots. With that being said, I think 23 minutes is good. I'll upload this. I don't even feel the need to edit this. This is exactly what I was looking for. There's some ambient Italy. People there you go. Someone's getting medical attention. So that's that helps probably. So thank you guys very much for watching. There are going to be more updates here. I'm going to have to look back on Twitter, where some of the people who have followed some of the discussions I've participated in have asked. I don't think it was about dualism, it was about something else. I'm sure we'll get to that eventually. Thank you guys very much for watching. There will be more video. Unless other things happen in other interviews, I think all the new content is going to be on here, and I hope it's going to be a forum. Like, subscribe, all the usual. Thank you so much.